Hey guys, George at SoundTraxx here. This week we've got a really quick tip, just some information that we've shared over the past, but want to highlight some of the videos that we've done helping you with installations. Because here at SoundTraxx, one of the biggest common questions we get is how do we do installations, especially when it refers to some of the older models like I've got here in front of me. So we're going to show you some examples of all of that. So let's get started. Now here in front of me, I've actually got a couple of models, and these are both designed very, very similarly, but of course they're different models. This one here is an Athearn RTR GP38, and this one even has the old clips, retainers, tabs or whatever that stick down into the frame. And you can see that there's actually some circuitry here on the decoder itself, and there's a 9-wire harness. And then this one is actually wired up with 1.5-volt light bulbs. And you could, in theory, plug a decoder into this 9-wire harness, mount the speaker up inside the top of the long hood, put it back in, and call it good. But not all models are going to be that easy. This one here is also a very similar installation. And when I pull this harness off, you'll see we have the wires for our headlight and backup light going up into there, and we have our 9-wire harness. Now, the biggest question that a lot of times comes up is people will inherit or get their old blue box models from Athearn, for example, or they'll get other brands out there that have various different ways of designing the track pickup to be connected to the motor. Now, these are fairly modern, and what I mean by that is that the track power is being carried through the frame on this side, and then you've got these little question mark looking shaped brackets on top of the trucks that carry the other rail. And so that's how this circuit board here is wired up. But prior to that, there was actually just a metal clip that ran under these brackets on top of the motor and then under the other bracket. And that carried the track power there, and then the motor was actually connected or physically touching the frame underneath, which would then carry the track power up to the motor. Now, when it comes to doing a DCC installation, you need to insulate that. So on these particular models, underneath the motor, those teeth that were touching the frame have been cut off, and you basically just have an air gap. But here on top of the trucks, you can actually see that we have the wire clipped to this bracket and then running up to the circuit board. And so from that perspective, this would be kind of the way you would want to do some of those. Now, other models may not be as easy to find as some of the older Athearn Blue Box. So, for example, you may see in this AHM/Riverosi GG1 picture that I'm showing you here, there's this metal bracket that's attached to the pole of the motor that touches the motor pole to the casing of the motor. The casing of the motor has the screws into the frame, which then carry the track power through the frame, through the casing of the motor, and then to that pole, and then you have the wire going to the other side of the tracks. And so it's those type of things that aren't necessarily immediately obvious that help you figure out how to isolate the motor so that way you're not sending track power to the motor, but you're actually sending track power to the decoder, and then you're going to let the decoder send the power to the motor, the lights, and what have you. Now, this is a very, very brief overview, just to touch on some of the examples you may encounter. But if you go back into our YouTube channel and look for webinar number 7, this is the DCC decoder installation overview guide. And these webinars are very informative, including number 7. Number 7, we talk about these instances in more detail and other examples that you may encounter when you're doing a decoder installation, especially when it comes to an older model. Now, if you're fairly new to the hobby and you're not really sure how to solder, you just know hot thing melts metal and it makes a connection. Well, let me introduce you to webinar 8, which is our soldering overview. So for you guys that are fairly new to the hobby, or maybe those of you guys who've never been formally trained, go ahead and watch webinar 8 because it'll teach you all about soldering, the skills that you need to do decoder installations, connecting wires or connecting to the circuit boards, and everything you'll need to keep in mind when you're doing that. So with webinar 7 and webinar 8, you'll actually get some great information when it comes to decoder installation to help you hone the skills. And as always, SoundTraxx is a phone call or an email away at support@soundtraxx.com if you have any questions or need any help or guidance. We've got lots of experience here, and we're happy to share it with you to help you be successful with your decoder installations. So that's everything I've got for you this week, guys. We'll see you next week. Thank you for watching.